Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Monday, March 1, 2021. CNN report: families separated at the border could be reunited in U.S., Homeland Security Secretary says. The Biden administration could reunite migrant families separated at the U.S.-Mexico border under former President Donald Trump in the United States, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said Monday. Mayorkas, who's leading the Family Reunification Task Force established by President Joe Biden, said the administration hopes to reunite separated families in the U.S. or in their country of origin.
BBC report. A very close call. Lady Gaga's dog walker tells of ordeal. Ryan Fisher was shot in the chest last week by a dognapper with a semi-automatic handgun in Hollywood, Los Angeles. The man and an accomplice took two of Lady Gaga's bulldogs, Koji and Gustav. A third bulldog, Miss Asia, was unharmed. Mr. Fisher said she was his guardian angel. He credited seeing her next to him with giving him the determination to survive. My panicked screams calmed as I looked at her, even though it registered that the blood pooling around her tiny body was my own, he wrote in an Instagram post on Monday.
BBC report: Yemen conflict. UK cuts aid citing financial pressure from COVID. The UK government said it would provide at least £87 million $120 million this year, down from £214 million last year. Aid officials have condemned the cut. The UN chief, Antonio Guterres, said reducing aid was a death sentence. The situation in Yemen has been called the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The conflict began in late 2014, when rebels seized control of much of the west of the country and a Saudi-led coalition of Arab states launched a military operation to restore President Abdrabbuh Mansur Hadi's rule.
BBC report. Syria war. Tens of thousands of detainees still missing, UN says. Thousands more have been tortured or killed in custody, according to a new report detailing alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity by all parties. Victims and witnesses described unimaginable suffering, including the rape of girls and boys as young as 11. The issue is a national trauma that must be addressed, the report says. Syria has been devastated by a conflict that erupted after President Bashar al-Assad's government responded with deadly force to peaceful anti-government protests in March 2011.
CNN report: Biden administration preparing to sanction Russia over Navalny treatment this week. The Biden administration is preparing to impose sanctions on Russia over the poisoning and jailing of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny this week, two administration officials tell CNN. The rollout of the sanctions will happen in coordination with the European Union, the officials said. The measures and the exact timing will be fleshed out by US and EU officials in the coming days. These sanctions would be the first costs imposed on Russia by the Biden administration and will set the tone for their policy towards Moscow going forward.
Fox report. Khashoggis' fiancee calls for Saudi crown prince to be punished without delay. The fiancé of murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi has called for Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to face immediate punishment following revelations from a U.S. intelligence report that he likely approved the journalist's murder. Khashoggi, a U.S. resident who wrote critically of the Crown Prince in columns for The Washington Post, was killed during a meeting with Saudi agents in Turkey to pick up documents that would allow him to marry his fiancée.
CNN report: Hong Kong protesters come out as 47 pro-democracy figures appear in court. Hundreds of protesters risked arrest to demonstrate outside a Hong Kong court, where 47 pro-democracy activists appeared Monday charged with subversion under the national security law. As authorities step up their crackdown against opposition voices, the protest was the largest seen in the city for months, with those gathered chanting the banned slogan, "Liberate Hong Kong, Revolution of Our Time," and carrying placards demanding the release of those rounded up under the sweeping legislation.
Al Jazeera report. Armenia PM says open to early elections to end crisis. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said he would be ready to hold snap parliamentary elections if the opposition agreed to certain conditions, as thousands joined rival street rallies in the capital Yerevan on Monday. Pashinyan, in power since 2018 in the ex-Soviet republic of less than 3 million people, is facing a crisis after the army last week demanded he step down, prompting him to decry a coup attempt and try to sack the army's top general.
CNN report. Brexit leaves London fighting for its future as Europe poaches business. London has been the unrivaled king of European finance for more than 3 decades. Brexit is starting to change that. Billions of dollars worth of stock and derivatives trading has already vanished from the British capital after the United Kingdom completed its exit from the European Union on Jan. 1, shifting abroad to financial hubs in Amsterdam, Paris and Frankfurt. And the threat of more lost business hangs above the city, home to dozens of the world's biggest banks, hedge funds and insurance companies.
Deutsche Welle report. Coronavirus Digest. Global infections up for first time in weeks, warns WHO. We need to have a stern warning for all of us, that this virus will rebound if we let it. Maria van Kerkhove, the WHO technical lead for COVID-19, said during a briefing. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the surge in infections was disappointing but not surprising. He called on nations worldwide not to ease coronavirus measures, stressing that it was too early for countries to rely only on vaccination campaigns and abandon other measures.
Fox report. George Floyd case. Minneapolis won't pay social media influencers during Derek Chauvin trial after backlash. Minneapolis City Council said Monday it's no longer continuing with plans to contract social media influencers to spread city-approved messages during the murder trial against Derek Chauvin, an ex-cop charged in George Floyd's death, after activists accused the city of buying the narrative about the case. During a virtual briefing discussing public safety and security preparations for the upcoming trial, David Rubador, Minneapolis Director of Neighborhood and Community Relations (NCR), apologized after receiving negative feedback from community members over plans to pay 6 influencers $2,000 each to spread messaging targeting Black, Native American, Somali, Hmong and Latinx communities.
Fox report. U.S. agents seize 277 pounds of banned bologna at Mexico border. New Mexico border officers seized 277 pounds of prohibited meat at the Mexican border on Sunday. U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers stopped a vehicle at around 6:30 p.m. at the Santa Teresa port of entry. A vehicle inspection revealed 30 rolls of pork bologna hidden beneath floor mats and car seats. The driver was a U.S. citizen from Sunland Park, New Mexico. Bologna containing pork products is prohibited from entering the U.S.
Fox report. Gerber says states causing irreparable harm to kids with ongoing school closures. Former Assistant Secretary for Health Brett Gerber asserted Monday that states are causing irreparable harm to kids by keeping schools closed. Students need to return to school immediately, Gerber told America's Newsroom, and jurisdictions like California, Washington, D.C., and Oregon are negatively impacting children by sticking with virtual learning. One thing I want to make sure that everybody knows is we should have our children back in school now no matter what, he said.
Al Jazeera report. Amid spread of variants, U.S. COVID-19 cases back on the rise. Cases and deaths due to the coronavirus disease are back on the rise in the United States, federal health officials said on Monday, amid rising concerns over the spread of new variants and difficulties for many people in booking vaccination appointments. In a coronavirus task force news conference, the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC), Rochelle Walensky, said after weeks of decline, cases and deaths have both risen at a rate of more than 2% over the past 7 days.
Deutsche Welle report. Ukraine recalls attache over smuggling of gold, cigarettes. Several Ukrainian officials are suspected of smuggling goods into Poland, Ukrainian investigators said on Monday. The group allegedly included at least one attaché of the Ukrainian embassy in Poland, as well as the attaché's father who used to serve in the same embassy. Another member of the group was working for the Ukraine's Agency for Special Communications and Information Protection, authorities said.
Al Jazeera report. Trauma, anger as Tigrayans recount Eritrea troops' grave crimes. Mekelle, Ethiopia, December 4 is a date that fills Mona Lisa Abraha with horror. It was then, the 18-year-old says, that Eritrean soldiers entered her village of Tembin in Ethiopia's embattled region of Tigray. They tried to rape me and I was thrown to the ground. Then, one of the soldiers fired bullets to scare me, but they hit my hand and then fired another bullet that went through my arm. Abraha recalls from a hospital bed on the outskirts of Tigray's capital, Mekelle.
Deutsche Welle report. UN experts call for international probe of Alexei Navalny poisoning. Two United Nations rights experts on Monday urged an international investigation into the poisoning of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny and called for his immediate release from prison. The assessment came from Agnes Kalamard, the special UN rapporteur on extrajudicial or arbitrary executions, and Irene Khan, the special UN rapporteur on the protection of the right to freedom of opinion and expression.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.